Right, 2 optical projectors. Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers. And this video is all about these things, optical projectors and 2 different ways that you can create 2 different looks in a small home studio. So optical projectors, this is my original one. I've had this one. This is the Spekular Light Blaster. I've had it for years. It takes a speed light, with a bit of careful wiggling, something as big as a Flashpoint EVOLV200. This one is new. This is the Nanlite LED projector, which is a continuous LED light. But basically, they do exactly the same thing. It's just this one looks more impressive, I guess. So let's start with this one. Let's get a light set. Let's get a model in. Let's get shooting. First things first, let's introduce you to our awesome model. And today we've got the fantastic Katie. And as a top tip I'm going to give to Katie, don't look straight down the end of this because this is going to be seriously blindingly bright if you suddenly turn it on unexpectedly. So I'm going to turn this on, Katie's going to look away, and inside of here I've got one of the gobos, go between optics, which is a metal disc with holes punched in it, and that projects out quite nicely like that. So that is a nice little projection unit. It has a focusing system which is extremely basic. Just undo a screw and then you can slide the lens, because it is a lens full of elements, closer or further away to change the effect. So let's get this in focus and actually tighten it up to make sure it stays where it's supposed to. There we go. And let's just take a test photo like this to see what we get. Now, because this is a continuous LED light, I don't need any flash. I can just put my camera in aperture priority and just take a photo just like this. And the pattern gets projected onto the wall and slightly onto Katie, which is really nice. But I am capturing some of the room light in this picture as well. What we need to do is take control of the room lights, and the easiest way to do that in my small home studio is to turn the lights off like this. There we go, we've lost the room lights, but we still have the continuous LED light. Okay, let's just take a test photo like that. And this time, much more contrast, much more drama, and really sharp detail from the gobo. That worked well, but I think I can get a bit more drama and interest if I actually take the same light and the same gobo and push it along the edge of the wall, a little bit like that. So this should feel and look a little bit different. Now, I could photograph in the same position as well, but I'm actually going to come around to the front here. Katie, do you want to go and stand in the light? Okay, that's great. Now once again, we're going to need to turn the room lights out, but before we do, let's just do a little test photo, see how it looks with the room lights on. And then if we turn the room lights off, and we'll do the same photo again, but with the room lights off, quite a bit of difference. So that is really dramatic, but maybe it's just a little bit dark over on the right-hand side. So to fix that area, I'm going to use a second light. It's another LED, it's another Nanlite LED, and all I have to do is turn it on. I've got it over to the side where I have the dark area. I need to turn the room lights off. And the great thing about LEDs is more or less what you see is kind of what you get. But let's just take a test photo and see how this looks. Okay, Katie, here we go. And that looks really dramatic. A nice little bit of fill in either corner. I like this a lot. And of course, the great thing about this sort of setup is there are multiple gobos you can use for different effects. But I think for now, we should take a few photos like this, then I'll mix up the gobos as we go along and see what we can create. So Katie, are you ready? Okay, let's take a few photos like this. The fill light is an RGB LED light, so I can change from white light to, well, in this case, red by default. And if I press the mode button again, the Nanlite can loop through its color palette. Suddenly, this photo session has become a lot more colorful. For the second setup, I'm going to use this, which is the Spekular Light Blaster. It looks a little bit different, but it does basically the same job. It's still a projector. The light source this time isn't continuous light, it's flash. It's designed to work with speed lights, but you can actually fit a Flashpoint EVOLV200 in there just about. At the front is an optical part. In this case, it's a lens that you supply. So it's a Canon fit, you can get adapters. So I've gone with the only Canon lens I still have available, which is luckily a zoom lens, which gives me an added advantage that I can actually zoom the pattern wider and smaller. It's also an f2.8 lens. You really want to have as fast a lens as possible. That's the optical side, but there's an important picture you have to take to make sure you've got control of the lights. Because this is a flash-based technique, so I'm going to turn the flash transmitter off, I'm going to turn my camera into manual mode, and I'm going to set a few important things. I'm going to set the flash sync speed, which is 250th of a second for my camera. I'm going to choose ISO 400, and also an aperture of f5.6. Okay, let's just take a photo like this. Here we go. And what I'm looking for is no flash, no picture. This is really important because it means the room lights are not going to be recorded in the photo, only the light from the flash will be seen. I've turned the flash back on and I've set the power to half. That's as bright as I want to go. The more light I push through the light blaster, the hotter the gobo is going to get, and that can be an issue as we go through this particular setup. I've also got it facing the back of Katie, and you might think that's a really weird thing to do, but I'm trying to create something of a silhouette effect. So this should work quite well. Let's take a photo and see what actually happens. So Katie, you're going to look in that direction. Here we go. And when I take a photo, I get, well, pretty much nothing. So far, this is not a particularly successful setup, but trust me, it's going to get a lot better with the addition of one single thing. It's smoke. Of course it's smoke. And the smoke I'm using is nice and thick, because the density of the smoke is going to give us definition and brightness to the beams of light. At least that's the idea. All we need to do is put a bit of smoke in the scene. So, Katie, I'm going to put some smoke behind you. Here we go. And very quickly run around to the front, and we'll take the same photo again. Here we go. And this time, rather than having nothing in the background, we now have a burst of light coming through. And just like before, I can actually change out the gobo to something completely different. So this is a different gobo to the last one. It's going to give a different result. Let's put some smoke into the room. Here we go. And we'll see how this looks. So this time, rather than having a radial effect, this is a horizontal effect. It gives a very different look and feel. And the nice thing about the Spekular Light Blaster is it actually takes traditional or old-fashioned slides. So you can put a slide in there, and with a bit of careful positioning, you can also have a gobo in there as well. So I put a little slide in to put some colour into the effect. Let's add some smoke in. Let's see how this looks. Katie, are you ready? Yeah. Here we go. Okay, I'll run around, grab my camera and see what we get. Here we go. And the end result is a mixture of light coming through the gobo and colour coming through the slide, and it looks fantastic. As you can see, the smoke dissipates really quickly because of the type of smoke I'm using, which means I have to keep running backwards and forwards from the smoke machine to the camera. So I'm going to get an assistant to help me with this one. Sam is going to be in charge of smoke. Katie's going to be in charge of modelling. I'm just going to press the shutter. So if everybody's ready, okay, let's take a few photos. Here we go. Okay, guys, just wait for the smoke to build. Okay, here we go. I can change the gobo and get a pretty predictable result, but adding a slide in throws some randomness to the colour. But it's the smoke that makes this really unusual, because as it changes its density, so I get completely different patterns appearing. I love it. It might not be immediately obvious, but these two optical projectors, or optical snoots, they are basically exactly the same, to the point that I could get broadly identical results using either one of these for any of the two setups that I did today. It's really all a matter of using the tools to the best of your ability. But one thing they do share is the large amount of heat that they can produce. And in the case of the Light Blaster, especially if you have slides, that can be a problem, because you really can just melt your slides. And with the Nanlite, when it came to changing over the gobos, let's describe them as being very warm indeed. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or you've got any questions, leave me a comment down below. Click on the bell icon and you'll never miss a video right here on Adorama TV. And we have new videos, well, pretty much every single day. And if you haven't already done so, click on that subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.